Good afternoon, and welcome to Becoming a Leader, a 21st CCLC NTAC Huddle. And this is where we come together for a brief webinar to share quick tips and resources that can be useful for you and for your programs. This webinar is great for project directors, site coordinators, and other leaders. And today we're going to be taking a look at some of the resources in our Becoming a Leader toolkit. Before we get started, we do have to play a quick disclaimer from the Department of Education.
This resource was developed in 2024 by the Nita M. Lowy 21st Century Community Learning Center's 21st CCLC National Technical Assistance Center, NTAC, funded under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education Department and administered by Synergy Enterprises Incorporated under Cooperative Agreement Number 287E230009 with the Department's Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. Opinions expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the position or policy of the Department, nor does mention of trade names, commercial products, or organizations imply endorsement by the Department or the federal government. This resource is in the public domain and is available at 21stcclcntech.org. Authorization to reproduce it in whole or in part is granted. This resource was developed.
Oops. Awesome. The 21st CCLC NTAC is to support everyone who plays a role in the implementation of 21st CCLC program so that you can engage and empower students and their families. We do this by providing evidence-based resources and professional learning opportunities that build the capacity of stakeholders. My name is Yana List, and I am a TA liaison with the 21st CCLC NTAC team. And I have been working in professional development and working in doing some coaching and traveling all over the US to meet educators for the last 4.5 years. And so I'm excited to highlight some of the great resources that we have created and that are really there to support you and your programs to really create a really welcoming and inclusive environment where everyone can succeed. And I am joined today by my colleague, Chaz. Chaz, do you want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I'm Chaz Sumners. I am also a TA liaison, and I spent 11 years teaching special education in English, and I've had the opportunity to work my way through pretty much every position in and out of school time program, from frontline staff to site director to program director. So I understand just how impactful really powerful leadership strategies can be, and I look forward to helping share those with you today.
Awesome. Thanks, Chaz. And so today we want to talk about what are the essential components of successful leadership in 21st CCLCs. That's actually a topic that we have explored over the last few months in our 10-part series on servant leadership. If you have missed the series, not to worry, every webinar is recorded and posted on our website. Our servant leadership series has really touched on the 10 pillars of servant leadership, and those pillars are listening, empathy, self-awareness, healing, persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, growth, and community. So if you have missed out on those webinars, but you're interested, please check them out on our website. Before we dive into some of the resources, I'd love to hear from our audience. What are your greatest leadership challenges and successes? You can let us know in the chat box. And this webinar is really an excellent opportunity to share your experiences and build your own skills, build your leadership toolbox. So we'd love to hear from you about what are some challenges and also what are your successes? What are you most proud of as a leader? Chaz, I know you come to us with many years of leadership experience. So would you like to share with us one example of a challenge you experienced and also a great success?
Absolutely. I know that especially early on in my leadership career, Communication was a real problem, making sure that my message was properly conveyed to all of the, different staff members that I had, and making sure that what I was saying was what I was actually meaning, which is an underserved aspect of communication. Sometimes when you're saying something, it sounds really clear to you, but it's not clear to the people with whom you're trying to communicate. So I that was a huge challenge for me initially, and so to combat that challenge, I implemented a staff feedback, just completely anonymous feedback box, right? So if I told you something and it didn't make sense to you and you were worried about like trying to clarify that in the moment, you can just slip something into the feedback box, and then I've realized that I didn't communicate that effectively. And then I can go and address that in, whatever way might be appropriate.
And how about a success? Do you feel like that feedback? What was the outcome from using that feedback form?
So again, having the insight that I got from the feedback allowed me to reframe the messages that I was conveying to my staff so that I was sure that my intentions were clear and that what we needed to do was clear for everybody.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing that, Chaz. And thanks for telling us about your experience. And that's a great thing to share with our educators, with our members. And again, we'd love to hear from you in the chat box if you have had experiences that have been either successes or challenges, or you took one of your challenges and built on it to create a success. That is an awesome example, like we heard from Chaz just now. So thank you, everyone. And again, we'd love to have that conversation going in the chat box. So we are going to be sharing and highlighting for you all today some of the resources that we have in our website. And so on our website, Chaz, I believe if we go back a slide, some of the resources we have, and now go forward and see if it has updated. It hasn't. So I'm just going to share my screen because I want to show it where it is on the website. On our website, we are very lucky to have a whole bunch of great courses and mini courses. And this is something that is in the process being launched as we go. So if you go to the 21st CCLC NTAC website, to our professional learning portal, you will see one of our whole courses that is focused on learning recovery. And if you scroll down, you'll also see our mini courses. Mini courses are shorter, bite-sized learning experiences that really take 1 or 2 hours and are an opportunity to delve into a subject. And today we are going to be talking about the toolkit that goes with becoming a leader. So when you open the website and click on the Becoming a Little Leader course, you'll see the first slide of the course. And also in that upper right corner, you will see the link to the toolkit. And Chaz very helpfully shared the link to get to this course right in the chat box. So some of the tools we want to highlight today from that toolkit, there is a lot there that will be really applicable to any educator. If you click on that toolkit, it will download this big folder with every tool in both Word and Power PDF format for you. And so we want to highlight some of the tools that are in there. And so the first tool that we're going to highlight that I believe Chaz is going to share in just a second is we're going to be talking about staff recruitment and training because we know that this is a really important topic for our educators. And so we know for each tool that you download, they are in Word documents and in PDF. The Word documents are completely customizable to the needs of your site, to your program. And the resources in this toolkit can help you in a variety of ways for implementing your 21st CCLC program. They fall into three categories: the tools that are focused on learning, that contain background information to build your skills. Then there is the plan and implement section. These are the on the ground tools you can use as you implement different leadership strategies and skills. They include things like scripts and templates that you will need to succeed. And finally, there are assess and reflect skills, where we really use the learning that you've done during the learn and plan and implement phases to learn from successes and help to improve future performance. And these will help you engage in that continuous improvement process. And all the wonderful tools in the Becoming a Leader mini course, they include tools for staff recruitment, development and coaching, effective communication strategies, and program improvement. So let's take a closer look at some of these. And the first resource I want to showcase is the Staff Recruitment, Training, and Retention at a Glance tool. This brief tip sheet is a breakdown of the job design framework from the National Fund for Workforce Solutions. If you've never heard of the National Fund for Workforce Solutions, they work to build a future where workers, employers, and communities thrive. They emphasize the importance of equitable opportunities by supporting skill development among workers, educating employees and employers, and building a world with better jobs. And in the staff recruitment, training, retention at a glance tool, we explain and help you apply that job design framework, in particular, centering racial equity and inclusion. And this framework features the four pillars of a good job. Now, the pillars of a high quality job are the core, which is the basic elements, are fair compensation, a positive work environment, high quality supervision. In other words, staff need to feel like they are supported and valued in their environment. They're not micromanaged in the workplace. And then they also need support. These include having access to training, internal assistance, external supports. So, really thinking about your own program. Do you offer opportunities for staff development and professional learning, so that they can build essential skills and become even more successful? Then there also needs to be opportunity. The opportunity pillar includes opportunities for staff to advance their careers. These opportunities may include mentoring and coaching, additional opportunities for professional development, growth within the organization. And so this is a thinking about how can your staff members grow in their responsibilities. Are there opportunities for professional advancement in your program? And the fourth pillar is voice. So your employees should be empowered to share their views and ideas for program improvement. Their perspectives should be carefully considered and implemented when they improve your program. So, in other words, we want to value and we can and should value the contributions that our staff offer because they have relevant expertise. And so now that we've reviewed those four pillars, we would love to hear from you. If you can use the annotation tool to let us know which of these pillars you already excel at in your program. You can also share with us in the chat box, how do you do it? How do you implement this pillar really successfully? So, are you able to offer a lot of opportunities for growth in your program? As an example, do you feel like you offer excellent support and options for professional learning for your staff? Do you really have a great setup for the basic elements of this job? And do your staff feel agency? So we'd love to hear from you. You can use the annotation tool. You will find that either at the top or the bottom of your screen. And you can click on that and use one of the reaction buttons or one of the buttons to let us know what you think. And if you're having trouble with the annotation tool, you can always let us know in the chat box. Uh, what do you feel like you're being really successful at? We'd love to know and love to hear from you of what is really succeeding in your program. Seems like we have a couple of votes for offering great support, and that is awesome because that is something that our staff need and value on a day-to-day basis. So we want our staff to have opportunities to improve. We know that as professionals, we feel empowered when we know that we're doing good work and offering appropriate support to our students, but staff need help to do that. So it's exciting to hear that we have a whole bunch of votes for really being very successful with support. We'd love to hear from you in the chat box if you want to share the ways in which you successfully support your staff. That would be awesome. So please do share those with our whole group so we can learn of what you're doing that is so successful. So thank you everyone for sharing. And we're just going to clear off our screen. Okay, excellent. So now that we have talked about this job design framework, I also want to highlight for you all that we have done a 10-part series on servant leadership. And there's a lot of great stuff in the webinar series, but if you want an extremely quick introduction to the topic of servant leadership, you can check out our tool, The 10 Pillars of Servant Leadership. In this tool, we explain the 10 pillars and give practical examples that you can apply in your OST program. So you might be wondering, what is servant leadership? Servant leaders are those who have the ability to get individuals aligned and moving in the same direction, while at the same time helping the people you serve and lead to become more autonomous. Servant leadership is an approach that emphasizes the responsibilities that leaders have to their staff, students, and communities. And so, really, what we're saying is that we as leaders have a responsibility to create that high quality program. And so those 10 pillars that I briefly mentioned at the beginning, but I do want to give just a quick overview for those that are not familiar. The 10 pillars are listening. So servant leaders need to commit to understanding the people and the communities they serve. Using active leadership listening strategies is essential for building transparent communication that minimizes misunderstandings. We also want to promote empathy. When we act as careful listeners, our staff may become comfortable enough to share their personal and professional struggles, and we have to learn to listen and put ourselves in the shoes of others. When staff feel that their leaders are here for them, they're more likely to seek support when they need it. There's the next pillar is healing. So promoting healing means understanding that all staff are human beings, which means they bring everything they experience to the workplace. That may include all the positives as well as all the harms they have experienced. As leaders, we need to understand that sometimes healing is necessary for staff to be their most successful selves in the workplace. The fourth pillar is self awareness. We need to be conscious of both our strengths and our areas for growth. By developing our reflective skills, we can continuously improve as leaders to work to promote positive outcomes for our programs. So, being really honest with yourself about what you are really successful at and what are the areas for growth that you have in your professional life. We also want to practice persuasion, which is not about manipulating people to take on your point of view. Instead, it's about opening people's mind and reaching consensus. So, really talking through and finding the best outcomes. As a leader, we want to really practice conceptualizations to have a clear vision for the desired student outcomes. And great leaders always look toward the future to put plans into action, thinking about what do we want for our children in the long term. And so, an effective leader is going to have really good foresight. All of us working in the out of school time environment know that things can change unexpectedly and the future is uncertain. As a leader, it is your responsibility to try to predict what might come up in the future that may impact your program's functioning and making a plan for coping with that change. We know that we can't always predict. I think none of us saw the COVID-19 epidemic coming, but when we anticipate some of the challenges ahead, we can reduce their negative impacts. The eighth pillar is stewardship. We are accountable to our program staff, our leaders, and our commitments. Keep in mind your diverse leadership responsibilities. We are taking on this really profound responsibility of building better communities and really developing the academic needs of our students. We also want to focus on growth. Your greatest responsibility is to grow and develop your people. Commit to providing meaningful professional learning opportunities, coaching, and individualized support to all your staff. Don't forget to develop your own skills. The more you know, the greater your skills as an educator. And everyone in this group has already dedicated themselves to that because you are coming to a training session where you can develop more skills. And so, seeking out those learning opportunities, whether they're through NTAC or your state or other sources, is a great way to continuously grow and improve and learn new skills. And finally, and most of all, we need to remember that 21st CCLCs are most impactful when they create a community where all are welcome and each individual feels valued and supported. A servant leader facilitates a program with meaningful relationships. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that is a lot of information, but it is so valuable. If you're interested in adopting the pillars of servant leadership into your own program, make sure to check out the 10 Pillars of Servant Leadership tool and to watch our 10-part series. We give you the resources you need to start this transformational journey and give you lots of opportunities for practice. And so now for all of our leaders, there are so many other resources in the toolkit. We're just getting started. The next tool I want to highlight relates to how staff communicate with, or how leaders communicate with staff, students, and the community. As a program leader, you set the tone and the agenda for effective communication practices. To help you use the best strategies and language, check out the Effective Workplace Communication for Leaders tool. This resource provides you with tips and tricks for effective communication with all your program stakeholders. My favorite part of this resource is the providing feedback to a staff member section, because this is one of the most important responsibilities of a leader, where we are trying to help and support our staff. And when done inappropriately, it can really sour the professional relationships you develop with your staff. This tool helps you craft effective feedback and deliver it in a way that can be received and constructively applied. Feedback is a natural part of the professional environment and it can be so beneficial, but letting staff be blindsided by feedback can negatively impact their perceptions of and commitment to your program. Now, speaking of effective feedback, if you're interested in developing the skills of your staff, which should definitely be one of your program priorities, make sure to check out the Real Talk coaching techniques to use with staff and students. This tool includes an immediately applicable script that you can use to coach both staff and youth. Real Talk coaching is an important approach because it helps cultivate a positive relationship between the coach and the stakeholder. This script starts with building understanding and then moves on to feedback. Remember that feedback isn't the same as critique. This process isn't about telling the stakeholder all the ways in which they're wrong. Instead, it is focused on using strengths to develop meaning and develop new skills. The coaching process should be mutual. The coach should not order the stakeholder around, instead, talk together to identify areas for growth and create a process for improvement. So, what you see with this script right at the top is it tells you to listen carefully to their idea, plan, or proposal. We want to show ourselves going back to that listening as one of the pillars of servant leadership. We want to show that we care about what our staff think. We've talked a lot about communication today, and we're certainly not done yet. We also need to talk about how to respond when things go wrong. Whatever the cause of a major disturbance in your program or community circles are an opportunity for open discussion in a safe environment. You may be thinking, what is a community circle? Most simply, it is a gathering of stakeholders to discuss an important and sometimes controversial topic. You may sit in a literal circle, or the configuration may occur in a virtual environment if necessary. Our tool, Circle Practices to Foster Community Engagement and Discussion, has a variety of circle practices that you can use to give everyone an equal voice in discussion. Restorative circles are one way to help students process their thoughts and feelings and re engage after a disturbance. In many communities, restorative circles are taking the place of punishments as a way to reintegrate students after they act out and to repair harm. Restorative circles come from an understanding that when someone acts out, there are consequences for the whole community. To reintegrate the student, it's valuable to openly discuss what occurred, to practice empathy, and plan for healing. As we discussed earlier, healing is an essential pillar of servant leadership because we know that our students and staff bring their whole selves to the program space. If we ignore the emotional needs of our students and our staff, we can create an environment that is not safe for student learning. We would love to hear from you in the chat box if you have any experience using restorative circles. And if you can do, we would love to hear from you if you can share any positives or maybe negatives about your previous experience with restorative circles. So Chaz, I know you have some great experience. We'd love to hear if you want to share an example of your experience using restorative circles.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think while reactive restorative circles, when harm has been done, are important, and we talk about them a lot, we don't talk enough about the power of proactive restorative circles, doing norm setting before harm is done, so that we are used to the way that a circle functions, and we're used to what the expectations are, so that when we go to address that in a reactive restorative circle, we're all starting from the same place of understanding. I think that that makes it far more impactful and powerful. And it just helps in general with norm setting when it comes to just your day-to-day program.
Thank you for sharing that, Chaz. And I think that is really valuable to think about how you integrate restorative circles and also that starting from creating that community. So today we've talked about the characteristics of a servant leadership and about a lot of resources for communication for leaders within our Becoming a Leader toolkit. But these aren't everything. Why are the skills and practices important for staff? Because we want to create a transformational change in our program environment. To achieve significant changes in your program, we do have a whole bunch of resources that will help you get the job done. Some of you may be already familiar with the concept of SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SWOT analysis is a strategic planning technique that you can use to better understand the state of your program. And this tool has a series of questions that you can ask yourself in each phase to really build your understanding of where your program is right now and your hopes for the future. You can conduct this SWOT analysis individually or gather a group of stakeholders to build consensus and consider multiple perspectives. And so while we have covered a lot of resources today, there is much more available on our website, 21stcclcntac.org. You can follow along with us on our social media, which you can see we have QR codes for our newsletter, for our X account, and for our LinkedIn account. We would love for you to follow us and interact with us on those social media. Our newsletter comes out about once a month, and it has a lot of information about updates, and you can hear what we're up to and what we're talking about. We would love for you to take just a moment to complete the poll to let us know how we did during this session. We're launching it now, and you can access it on your screen. We just want to know how we did, and we always want to continue to improve. Please be sure to check out our newsletter, the NTAC Messenger, for a variety of other resources and content. You can subscribe by clicking the link in the chat or scanning the QR code on your screen. Thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate your engagement, and we'll see you next time.